Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. And I'm your host, Dave Walsh, and in this episode, we are doing something a little special. This is our 25th episode, so I cut Grant off before he could actually do his standard introduction there. And so in this episode, we're going to spend a little bit of time just getting to know who Grant is, because Grant signed on for this kind of out of the blue, and it's good to get to know him. And if you notice here, we can he actually has some video. Look at this. It's a face that radio loves right there.
Radio, not video.
So, Grant, how have you been, buddy?
Not too bad, David. Not too bad. Obviously, as you can see, I've got it sorted out so that you can see this ugly mug right now.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's better than people seeing my ugly mug all the time. It's So my first question is, since we're trying to get to know who you are, you live in England, the home of J.R.R. Tolkien. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and how did you get into the Lord of the Rings?
I'm a normal guy. Me dad, when I was younger, got us the first set of books, although I was too young to fully appreciate them until I was a little bit older. But he'd read The Hobbit to us, and then he'd read some of the first lot of Lord of the Rings to us. Then when I got to about 10, just before, well, actually I'd have been about 9, just before the Fellowship of the Ring came out, I started reading it again, and I just fell in love with the entire world. Going back, as I've gotten older, I've broadened my knowledge of the lore of Middle-earth, as you yourself have known, as we've talked off screen.
Yeah.
My background knowledge is quite extensive in the fictional world of Tolkien. I go deep into the lore behind the characters, how they came to be who they were throughout the stories, and overall just love the entire aspect of Middle-earth.
A little behind the scenes for the viewers is that Grant is probably the most knowledgeable guy I've ever had extended conversations to about anything in the Tolkien universe. I think that he knows the lore and history of just about every character that we've ever discussed, and we know about, like, the map. He has the map memorized and knows where the map and all the parts are. So he kind of underestimates himself when he says that he's very knowledgeable. He's one of the most knowledgeable people in the lore of the ring. So anyways, go ahead, keep going.
Just before anybody wants to challenge that, I do not claim this myself. I just think I know a few little facts that not many people know. I do not want a one-on-one breakdown question quiz with anybody. I do not do being put on the spot.
Okay.
But no, other than that, I'm a family man. I've got 5 kids with me fiance, who we're busy basically planning a wedding. Those of you that have followed the post on Facebook on the Card Talk group or the page itself will know that we've had some ups and downs trying to get these episodes recorded because of issues coming.
That's right.
But other than that, I'm a nice, easygoing guy.
You are a super easygoing. How did you get into the Lord of the Rings card game? And is this the only game that you play, or do you do other things, or like
Um,
what's your gaming and Lord of the Rings thing?
right. Well, for gaming aspects, I am um, probably very well versed in most, if not um, for PlayStation, Xbox, um, PC. I'm quite well versed in most types of gameplay. Lord of the Rings is the only card game I'm playing at the minute. I have looked into Arkham Horror, but I haven't gotten my head around the rules for that yet. So that one's on the back burner for the time being.
It's funny. It seems like a lot of
Uh,
people who play Lord of the Rings also like Arkham Horror.
yeah, it's very well designed. Um, it's one of those games that actually pushes you to do the story narrative, and that's what I like. I like a good story narrative. Lord of the Rings doesn't need one because the story is basically already there. It's nice to have the functional story going out from the core set into the first adventure like cycle, and then the same goes for each one after that. They've got their own stories, but you don't need to know them to play the game. They're not derivative of that because you know the characters, you know how each of the characters are meant to be and why they've done the characters the way they've done them. As we've said in a couple of the episodes, um, they get either the character spot on or they don't. um,
Bilbo.
yeah, I wasn't going to mention that, but yes.
Right.
Yeah, but other than that, Lord of the Rings is probably my biggest knowledge base
Yeah.
for pretty much anything.
How did you how did you
I
get
don't
how did you get into the Lord of the Rings card game?
Probably around the 2014 mark. They just released Overhill and Underhill deluxe box set, and my dad found it on online, and were he said, "Do you like the look of this?" And at the point in time, it was like, "Yeah." So I pulled it up on YouTube to see if anybody had done any gameplay with it, and I actually come across Cardboard of the Rings, who was busy, who just not long started or was about to start the first progression series. And I really got into it, and me and my dad then splashed out money on a core set and the first two adventure cycles. So that would have been Conflict at the Carrock and Hunt for Gollum. And we played it and we carried on playing. We beat the first few quests with only mild, I'd like to say, destruction on our half. But it then kind of went on the back burner for us um, for about 4 or 5 years. Well, for about 3 or 4 years. And then when I got with my partner and got myself a job, I then started to get back into it again on the digital version. Because I'd played on and off on the digital version for the few years in between, never actually buying anything for it. And then were I ended up just saying, right, you know what? My dad was getting ill, um, and I um, went to see how much it was going to cost us to rebuy everything from scratch in case I'd missed anything. So I bought a second core set and the full cycle of Shadows of Mirkwood, and then got a few extra bits along the way. And I now own a fair collection. It is no. by no means complete, and I doubt I will ever get it complete.
Right.
But I have started, and I am going to continue to expand my collection, even though me and my partner prefer the digital version of playing because we've got access to all the cards. We're not restricted by what we can play.
Right.
But it
You
is
just answered my next question was what do you prefer? Do you prefer the live cards or do you
I
prefer
I
OCTGN?
do I do actually prefer the live cards. If I had all the cards to date, I'd prefer playing tabletop rather than digital. I play digital to play with me good friends like yourself and a couple of other people I play with, but it's mainly something I can do with my partner, because I've kind of converted her over into it. Because at first she wasn't really a fan and said, "Oh, I don't know, maybe," and we pushed on, and she fell in love with it, and now it's probably one of the better things we do together other than watching movies, which I am also very well versed in.
Yeah. Let me ask a little bit about the podcast. Um, I put out a call for people who were interested in doing a podcast, a short podcast, about cards from the game, and you answered it, and we kind of got started there. But what your tagline, kind of how you introduce yourself, is always, "I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride." Why don't you explain to our audience what the heck that is and what that means?
Right. Well, I introduced myself that way is because the whole idea of Card Talk was your idea. It was your baby. And I'm easygoing. I don't care. I roll with the punches. So I just thought, hey, I'm just along for the ride. Do what you need to do. And I think we'll have a good laugh while we're doing it.
All of that is true, by the way. For more behind the scenes, he says, I definitely, I definitely enjoy hanging out with Grant and talking about the game and talking about the cards. He's a lot of fun, and he does roll with the punches pretty well.
Well, I've got to.
I know. So looking back at some of the episodes that we've had, this is our 25th, so we've recorded 24 other shows, including one with Joseph Forster, card that we didn't pick, but still talked about Círdan the Shipwright. I'm still gloating about that, by the way.
I knew.
But looking back at our episodes, what is there anything that you would change, any ratings you would look back, or is there anything that you would want to add to something? I don't know. The most recent episode, like Mary, when we recorded it, you hadn't been running Hobbits, and now maybe you have, so maybe there's some changes like that, or I don't know.
Yeah, the biggest one for me is the attachment Boots from Erebor, because me and my partner, as I say, we've been running. She runs dwarves generally. I've tried dwarves on and off. I've come to appreciate Boots of Erebor a little bit more. I'm not as overwhelmed by it as what you are, David, but I'd change.
I love that. I love Boots of Erebor.
I know you do, but I'd change my rating from a 6 to a 5 because I'm getting some mild use out of it.
Oh.
I wouldn't say it's something that I'd put in every deck, but I have ran with it. And yes, we've just recorded Mary, and I have ran a successful Hobbit deck. And at the moment, I give it a rating of 5. I'm actually going to change that to a rating of 3.
Wow. I've turned you to the Hobbit side, huh?
I was always part of the Hobbit side. I just didn't have the appreciation to give it a better rating without having used it personally.
Right. Yeah. that's kind of my philosophy about the rating. Is if I haven't used it, I kind of put it at a 5 unless something makes it one way or the other. Right now, as you're playing the game, you're not playing the game right this moment, but as you're playing the game right now, as we record this, what's your favorite card or card type or archetype to have in a deck, or to what's your go-to here?
Well, at the moment, I like running my Done Here Duck Shoot, but I am moving away from that. I'm trying to get my Harad Meets the White deck up and running. I have literally not long posted a picture of my victory in Chetwood on the LOTR LCG player page that Joseph manages, and it was against the Nightmare mode, and I won. But it's still a bit janky from time to time. I end up with a load of either unused resources, or I don't have enough resources. So I'm trying to balance it out at the minute. But for the hero I've probably used the most, I'd probably say it's Spirit Glorfindel. And people may penalise me from that, but I don't care. He's a good hero. I am not actually running him in Harad Meets the White. I'm actually using his low version, which I don't think we've come to talk about.
No, we haven't talked about. But that was the alt art released at the last Gen Con, was Lorfindel.
Yeah, and he's riding Asphaleth. I know, I so want to get my hands on it.
What's your like go-to or favorite scenario that you run right now then?
I run different scenarios for testing decks. I like to drop into Dwaradalf and do Foundations of Stone, because it gives us a good overall of what the deck's capable of. I like going back to the beginning and trying Journey along the Anduin, just to get me deck creamed.
Yeah.
But I also like Escape from Umbar, because that seems to work efficiently for deck testing. You've got to keep the enemies at bay whilst questing for the right amount and keep that archery damage off.
Right.
So it's a nice one to try and get to.
That archery damage in Escape from Umbar is ridiculous.
Brutal.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, but those are generally the types of quests I go towards. Some of the easier quests, like Encounter at Amundine, I try, and the Passage Through Mirkwood, I generally tend to stay away from, because I find that they're too easily dealt with.
Have you done Nightmare Passage?
I've tried Nightmare Passage, and I got to stage 2B before my deck got completely creamed.
Nightmare Passage is actually really well done and is really good. I like
it. It is, but I think later on, because what they did with, especially just Passage Through Mirkwood, they went, right, we're going to take out all these softballs, and he has 10 ton of more terrifying, just wipe your deck cards.
Right.
Whereas with likes of Journey Along the Anduin, Foundations of Stone, they added more devastating cards, but they did it in a way that wasn't unmanageable.
Right.
I mean, don't get us wrong, Escape from Dol Guldur Nightmare is still a nightmare, but it's better than Passage Through Mirkwood.
Normal mode on Escape from Dol Guldur is still impossible. It's the only quest that I haven't beaten. that I've tried. I keep revisiting every once in a while. The thing is that I just can't build I just can't bring myself to build a deck just to beat the one scenario. That's my problem.
Yeah, you want to build it. You want to beat the deck with any scenario, with every scenario using the one deck.
Well,
you want the one deck to rule them all.
Well, I would love to have one deck to rule most, and so and I try not to look up what other people are doing in terms of building decks. So I don't know. Some decks I have fun with, but this is about you, not about me, buddy. What the heck?
Just throwing a bit back at you, mate.
Yeah, right. Here we go. I guess that's it, huh?
Well, unless you want to speak about anything else, mate.
No.
You can. I'm easy going. I roll with the punches. I'm just along for the ride.
Right. Well, I was gonna ask something strange. So here's one of the things that I've noticed, and this is just because I do all the editing on the videos, is that you spell your name two different ways. Your last name.
Yes.
Does your last name have a P or does it not have a P? And I've seen it spelled both ways. That's why I'm concerned.
Right. My Facebook profile has it without a P because I had two profiles when I was younger, and it was just to differentiate between the two.
Okay, so do you have a P in your last name?
Yes, I do.
Does that mean I need to change the background and stuff on our Card Talk stuff?
Do whatever you like, mate. People will know when they watch the video.
Oh, man. So, how long have you been playing this silly game?
Well, like I say, I've been on and off since about 2014. So, on and off for the past 4.5 years.
My gosh.
And never call Lord of the Rings silly. It is not silly, it's a way of life.
Yeah.
Right, well, do you want to tell them what we've got, the specials that we've got coming out?
Oh, yeah. So I think this is time where we're going to talk a little bit about some of the special things that we've got coming up. This 25th episode, I think, indicates to Grant and I that we're probably not going anywhere, at least, maybe over the short term we'll go on vacation or, have life happen. But I think that over the long term, we're planning on hanging around and doing this for a while. So one of the things that Grant and I wanted to do was to make this easier for people to access. So I think we're going to try to upload unedited audio versions of the next few episodes to see how that goes and see how people respond to that sort of thing, which is pretty cool. And then we're also going through. Should we do the other thing that we're doing too?
Why not? Let's give it to them in a boatload.
Right. And so the other thing that we're doing is we're going to try to go through the encounter cards. One of the things that is tough when you're doing an episode about a card is that you want to talk about the card and what combos with it and things like that. But instead of doing encounter cards, we're going to do encounter card sets. So, and not decks. We're not going all the way to the decks. We're just going to the sets and talking about the cards and kind of how we deal with the cards and how we feel about that. And so that'll be exciting, and that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, just to give us a little bit of time to make sure that everything is good with those things. And so, is there anything else I'm missing, Grant?
New audio podcast, encounter card sets, just breaking the fourth wall here. We've already recorded many other episodes, so if the continuity doesn't seem right, that is why. Um, but no, I think we've hit all the nails on the head.
Okay, so I think we should have our audience join us next time as we roll out our first audio coupled with the video podcast, and that's going to be about Hero Gandalf, right? The 13 threat hero that is neutral. Ooh. So join us then. Have a great day.